The skyline lights up as the incoming missiles streak overhead, one after another. What began as silence is now a storm of fire. And far away, out at sea, the order has already been given: combat readiness. On board the aircraft carrier, the crew immediately springs into action. The massive warship begins preparing to leave port. Deep below the deck, the engines roar to life and build to full power. On the pier, the thick mooring lines that hold the ship in place are cast off one by one. Tugboats move in close, positioning themselves alongside the carrier's enormous hull. Slowly and carefully, they begin guiding the ship through the narrow harbour channel. At the bow, sailors operate the anchor windlass. The heavy chains grind upward from the water, link by link, dripping seawater as the anchors are hauled back into their housings. All along the ship's rails, crew members gather to watch the shoreline slowly drift away. Some stare silently back toward the port, toward the buildings, toward the people standing on the docks watching the carrier depart. No one waves, they simply watch. The tugboats continue pushing and pulling the massive vessel forward. Finally, the carrier clears the harbour entrance. One by one, the tugboats peel away and turn back toward port. Now the carrier is on its own. The ship moves into open water under its own power, and immediately, the work begins. On the forward deck, sailors grab steel brushes and begin scrubbing the anchor chains and mooring lines. Mud, salt and debris collected in the harbour are cleaned away. The thick ropes are coiled neatly and secured. Anchor housings are locked down for sea. The carrier is transitioning from port operations to full combat readiness. Below the flight deck, inside the enormous hangar bay, activity is already intense. Mechanics and maintenance crews swarm around rows of helicopters. Weapons teams move quickly, attaching ordnance to the aircraft pylons, rockets, missiles, gun pods. Each helicopter is carefully inspected before it is cleared for flight. Technicians check rotor assemblies, hydraulic systems, and tail sections. Every bolt, every line, every moving part is examined. Once cleared, the helicopters are ready for combat sorties. Across the hangar bay, another team works around the carrier's strike fighters. A-18 Super Hornets sit in rows beneath the deck, their wings folded tight to conserve space. Crew members move between them with precision and speed. Weapons are loaded, panels are closed, engine covers are removed, fuel levels are checked. One by one, the jets are connected to tow tractors and slowly pulled toward the massive aircraft elevators. The elevators rise, carrying the fighters up from the hangar bay to the flight deck above. On the deck, everything moves with controlled chaos. Deck crews in brightly coloured jerseys guide each aircraft into position. Signals are passed with quick hand gestures. Every movement is rehearsed and precise. One fighter is rolled forward onto the catapult track. Its wings unfold and lock into place. The launch bar is lowered and connected to the catapult shuttle. Behind the aircraft, the jet blast deflector rises from the deck, shielding the crew and equipment from the engine's tremendous exhaust. The pilot pushes the throttles forward. The engines roar to life, building to full power. The aircraft vibrates against the holdback bar as it strains forward. The catapult officer steps forward and signals. Launch. In an instant, the holdback releases. The catapult fires. The fighter explodes forward down the deck and shoots off the bow of the carrier. For a split second, it drops toward the ocean before the pilot pulls back and the jet climbs sharply into the sky. Seconds later, the next fighter is already in position. Then another, and another. One after another, the jets are hurled off the deck and disappear toward their assigned sectors. The flight deck becomes a constant cycle of motion. Launch, clear, taxi, launch again. At the rear of the flight deck, a helicopter sits on the landing spot. Its rotors begin to turn slowly, then faster and faster. The spinning blades blur into a solid disc as the engines reach full power. Deck crews clear the area and signal the pilot. The helicopter lifts gently from the deck, hovers for a moment above the carrier, and then moves out over the water. Within seconds, it is already heading toward its mission area. But the carrier is not alone. Farther out in the formation, the escort ships of the carrier strike group are preparing their own weapons. One of the guided missile destroyers turns slightly broadside to the sea. On its deck, Armoured hatches begin opening across the vertical launch system. Inside those launch cells sit Tomahawk cruise missiles. Then the first one fires. With a violent burst of flame and smoke, the missile blasts upward from its cell. It rises vertically for a moment before tipping forward and racing toward the horizon. Then another missile launches. And another. Soon the sky is streaked with trails of fire as Tomahawks roar away from the destroyer, each one programmed for a different target. Hundreds of miles away, those targets are waiting. Iranian military installations, radar stations, air defense batteries, command centers. The missiles fly low and fast across the landscape. And then the impacts begin. Explosions flash across the ground as the cruise missiles strike their targets, one after another. Fireballs rise into the night sky as military sites are hit with devastating precision. Back at sea, the carrier's flight deck never stops moving. More fighters taxi into launch position. Hook up. Engines to full power. Launch. Deck crews move constantly across the deck, directing aircraft, clearing equipment, preparing the next jet for takeoff. Every second matters. Every movement is part of a carefully choreographed system designed to keep the strike operation running at full speed. Meanwhile, the escort ships continue their barrage. More hatches open, more missiles launch. Each one streaks away toward a new target. Radar installations, military headquarters, air bases, supply depots. The strike group unleashes wave after wave of precision attacks. At the same time, additional aircraft are taking off from airfields across the region. At Allied bases, fighter jets roar down runways and lift into the sky. They climb rapidly and form up into pairs and larger formations before turning toward the combat zone. These land-based aircraft will join the carrier's fighters already in the air. The scale of the operation continues to grow. From sea and land, aircraft and missiles converge on the same targets. Carrier-based jets, Allied fighter squadrons, cruise missiles launched from destroyers, all striking at once. The air campaign is now fully underway. Across the region, the sky fills with aircraft and weapons moving toward their objectives. This is no longer a limited strike. It is a coordinated military assault designed to overwhelm defences and cripple key military infrastructure in a single wave. And it has only just begun.